The views, opinions, and wild ramblings expressed on this podcast are strictly those of our hosts and do not reflect the thoughts, values, or overly serious policies of their employers, sponsors, advertisers, or anyone with a legal team. All scenarios we discuss are based on past experiences, most of which we barely survived, and have nothing to do with any of our current jobs or employers. Basically, don't sue us. We're just here for the laughs, not the lawsuits.
Welcome to the Four Friends Trying to Figure Out HR, the podcast where we blend workplace drama, HR nightmares, and a way too much oversharing into one wildly inappropriate package.
Your hosts, they're a real dream team. First, we have Mama Mel, the HR queen with a knack for keeping it real and breaking the rules when nobody's looking.
Heavy on the no one's looking.
Next, we have Dr. Green, the one with all the fancy-ass degrees and the questionable sense of humor.
E equals MC squared.
Such a nerd. I'm the big llama. I come for the big laughs, the bigger opinions, and absolutely zero filter, because I don't even know what that word means. And last but not least, we've got Jake from HR. He's not wearing any khakis, and it's questionable if he's even wearing pants, but he is here to ensure that we're breaking HR guidelines just for fun.
I'm always here to judge.
So buckle up, grab your handbook, maybe a cocktail, and join us as we figure out HR one awkward scenario at a time.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Just for Friends Trying to Figure Out HR podcast. This is our first live episode. Typically we do a pre-recorded episode and you guys get to see it after the fact, but we are actually live tonight and we've got some people that are actually joining in. So we're going to do a crazy experiment here. We're going to do some scenarios from ChatGPT and then we're going to give you our answers, see if we can beat ChatGPT. So it's the humans of HR versus ChatGPT. And obviously, if we get any comments or questions from the audience, we definitely will entertain some of those. So if you are listening live and you're watching this live, go ahead and put a comment on there. We will go ahead and put it on the screen and we'll answer any and all questions. But welcome to the show, everybody.
Hello.
We have fans already. Look at this.
Yes, look at that.
Life of Goddess
merch.
Can I have an autograph from Jake from HR? All right.
Whoa.
Along with the last four digits of your social, your blood type, then we'll be good.
No, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. I don't even know who Life of Goddess is. You know, they use these code names.
All these people in the Life of Goddesses. Just don't forget, we do have merch, merch that says, I love
HR.
Jake from HR.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Actually, we did get an order. I think Mama Mel voted for herself. Mama Mel is our first merch order. It's on the way. I saw on the shipping. It's on its way to you. So hopefully by the next show, Mama Mel will have her I Love HR shirt.
You know what? I guess I better go ahead and do mine too. I'll do a hoodie.
Well,
Mama Mel got the Mama Mel edition, so she'll be branded and logoed.
Yeah, I got a rep for the best team.
Hey, vote one goes for Mama Mel. She's the merch. The merch is starting. So
hey, I'm the winner at some point.
You won it, Mike. What are you talking about?
Except participation percentages, right, Mel?
Dang.
Oh, that's low. She missed one podcast.
No. I'm talking about our old role where we would fight for who participated the most in a survey.
Oh.
We definitely had a friendly banter, which has never been replaced, by the way.
Oh, well, good. Michelle Delgadillo says, "Hi, Mama Mel. Glad to see you are back."
Hi, sister.
Oh, okay. So do we address the elephant in the room? Obviously, Mama Mel was not here last week.
I was not here last week. I don't know what to say. I had a birthday party, but I was very, 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 very thankful for Irma for stepping in. And guys, that episode was so good. I text Mama the next day. I'm like, that episode is so good. I had so much fun. Irma can definitely come back whenever she wants to. She can take my place while I'm out on leave. But it was such a fun episode. You guys delivered. It was great.
It wasn't the same, but yes, it was a good episode. But we were shocked that she was actually there because we weren't told that Irma was coming. Irma, the HR lady. We were told somebody else was coming, and then she shows up on the screen. So that was a thank you for that, Dr. Green. There's a request. Michelle Delgadillo says, "Let's see the belly."
But,
No.
From who though? Who is she?
That's not appropriate.
Whose belly is she asking to see?
Oh, okay. So yeah, hold on. You want to see a belly?
I mean,
she didn't specify who. I mean,
that's a good point. Where's my cat?
Oh my God. So yeah, we're off to a rocky start already. Let's see the bellies. We show our bellies. All right.
So quick question. What do people do for the ones who want to comment, but for whatever weird reason, they can't comment? Any idea of how we could fix that?
They probably have to be subscribed to the channel.
Oh, subscribe.
They have to go on YouTube and be subscribed to the channel, and that's how you can. I don't think I did any settings on the thing, so
go subscribe. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Jesus, I am. Okay, cool. So let's get started in the fun. Yes, I'm here for the belly. Oh, good God, I'm done with y'all. Well then, Michael, guys, you need to subscribe. So anyways, all right, let's get started on, we're going to do a little bit different today, since of course we're doing the live thing. We're going to basically read off a scenario, and there's a few scenarios, and then we'll go around and we'll kind of give like what we would have done differently, or if ChatGPT said the right thing, because it's HR against AI. So that's what our episode is mostly about today. So in saying that, let's get started. For number one, we have chronic tardiness from a high performer. I know we kind of rocked on that last week.
Okay.
Scenario: a top performing employee known for excellent work and client relationships has developed a pattern of arriving 20 to 30 minutes late several times a week. Their manager has verbally addressed it, but the behavior continues. Y'all want to give, or do you want me to give the AI answer? Or you want me to give y'all's answer first?
No, let's go around and see how we would answer. Then let's see what AI says.
Go ahead, the big llama.
Well, first and foremost, I feel attacked.
We don't work banker's hours, sir.
I feel like this was like ChatGPT knew we were going to talk about him, and they directed this at me.
This was a dig.
This was a dig. I think ChatGPT knows my punching history. So screw you. Okay, so So here's the thing. If the job, and this is how I look at it, right? If the job requires like a specific time hack, like we're opening the store, first customer, front facing, I will have issue with this, right? And I will say that even if you are excellent at your work, if you have this pattern, right, I definitely would address it. But I would go through levels, right? Like, so it says manager has verbally addressed it. That's a good thing. Again, depending on the severity of why you need me there at a certain time, this is the part where I think a lot of people become automatic, right? Like you're late. Like, what does that mean exactly? Can I work later hours? Can I make up time? And again, I think with a little bit of respect too, there's got to be a give and a take there. But again, that is important in my scenario. And I would definitely follow the levels of discipline, some verbal warnings, some writtens, and then, formulate a plan, or even just ask what's going on. Like maybe there's something happening. Maybe it's a transportation issue. Maybe they're catching the city bus. I don't know. Like if you don't know all of these things, right, you got to ask the questions. So that's how I would look at it, and definitely want to make sure that we're addressing the human side of it. And also, how important is it that I be there right at 8:00? Again, is it help me understand that part, because sometimes there are things that can be excused or moved around. So that's my 2 cents on that one.
Okay. Mama Mel, what do you think?
So a couple of things that I would like to consider, right? Like, is this I guess to Lama's point, you'd have to understand what type of role this is, right? Like, is it, the example that he gave, opening a store. You got to be there on time to open up the store. Walmart can't open at 8:20 when it says 8:00 on office hours or store hours. Also, is it an hourly position or is it a salary position? Right? If it's a salary position and I'm coming in 30 minutes, late, I mean, what are you docking my pay? Because are you going to add overtime for that 3 hours that I stayed last week? So hourly or salary is something that I would take into consideration. Also, I love the point that Lama also just made. Sometimes we're so quick to have conversations just to document and say, we had the conversation, we've talked with them, we're okay. If we go to an employment hearing, if we go to, a suit or whatnot, we have our documentation, but are we really understanding the needs of our employees? And that's putting the human aspect of our job first, right? Is there, like to Lama's point, is there a transportation issue? Is there a daycare issue? Is there something else that we could be doing to help that employee? We're so quick to just say, have the conversation, document it, be done with it, but are we really employee friendly in that area? So and then of course follow suit, right? You have the conversations, you discipline the employee, you follow your progressive, disciplinary form or format or action, and ultimately that leads to separation, then that leads to separation, right? Also, like, how strict is your attendance policy? Is it flexible, right? There are a lot of variables that we'd have to consider, but essentially, you document, you follow the progressive, path. But there are other things to consider, and this is going to sound horrible, but especially if they're a high performer, do we really want to lose someone because they're 20 minutes late? Or is there something that we can do to help them?
Okay, good. Good points. Good points. Jake from HR, what are your thoughts?
I agree and love with how y'all tackled the employee first. I would go the other direction. I'd have a conversation with the manager, because all it said was they addressed it. What is that? Like, he went up to the employee, said, "Stop it, be here on time." Like, I would find out, like, did the manager do their due diligence and have that in-depth conversation to what you all said, which is find out, do you know why your employee is running late? Have they discussed with you some hurdles that they're facing? Because while we can address that with that employee, we have many, many employees that are going to face these challenges in their life. And if we have that manager that doesn't know how to properly address it, doesn't make sure that they're doing their due diligence and having empathy and digging into what's driving the problem, then your office door is going to just be rotating year round. And that manager is never going to learn how to develop their employees and manage these situations without HR. So I would definitely take a lot of the routes y'all were talking about, but I would start with the manager versus the employee.
Okay, good. That's a really good answer. Not that y'all's answers were bad, but let's tackle more.
But the scenario itself is focused on the chronic tardiness from a high performer. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, I love that you went there and you took it there, but
who's to say the manager didn't change their schedule last minute to something that they weren't used to working and they didn't agree to?
True.
And maybe the manager's fault the employee is struggling. We don't know until we ask the manager exactly what details did they get, and what did they do to solve the problem before we get the employee involved.
So in my thoughts on this, before I read what ChatGPT came up with, I also want to say, because we've all worked at an organization that it's like this PTO policy is a nightmare. So I have to dock myself 30 minutes because I'm 30 minutes late. Well, or I don't even get the option to make up the time. So there's so many factors that also it's on top of the organization itself, because you also have to have, I think what you said, Big Llama, was spot on. You've got to have the human in human resources. If you don't have that, then it's not worth it. It's not worth, like I used to constantly stress, I'm like 5 minutes late. Oh, okay. Oh. And it used to give me so much anxiety. And so far I finally just like, screw that. And so at this point, I also think that the organization should be understanding. Granted, I know, like, if you have a meeting at 8 a.m., it's your responsibility to be at that meeting. Now, does that mean you have to be in your office on the desk and drinking coffee during that meeting? No. You can still be in a meeting. And I can tell you how many times I had a meeting while I was in my truck. There needs to be normalcy behind it, not, if you do this, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this, 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 and this. We're still following old school, typical 90s way of thinking and doing as an organization. So that's my 2 cents. And then, of course, there went Jake from HR.
I am so sorry.
I will loan you $5 if you need it.
I will have a different computer next week, I promise.
We usually pick on Mel because we always say her internet's not working because her family's always over stealing the internet. Okay, so HR action. What has ChatGPT said? Their 3-step program, I guess we'll call it, is step 1, the HR partners with the manager to document the issue formally and ensure previous verbal conversations were recorded. Step 2, HR facilitates a conversation with the employee to reinforce expectations and understand root causes like transportation, health, family stuff, and offer support or reasonable accommodations if applicable. There went the nice word, accommodation. We'll jump into that.
ChatGPT.
Step 3, a written warning is issued with a clear performance improvement plan. Focusing on attendance, not job quality. Now, how many of y'all like kind of cringed there for a second, because I felt like that's jumping way too ahead of the gun.
Not the manager.
From verbal, written to PIP.
If the manager had already addressed it appropriately several times, hopefully it was already verbally documented in some way, then no, I don't disagree with the accountability process.
Let's go back to the scenario. The manager has verbally addressed it, but the behavior continues. So we don't know if that was done several times or if it was like, hey, man, don't be late. Gotcha. And then the next time, you see where I'm going?
Mm-hmm.
So I personally, in my opinion, step 3, a written warning is issued with a clear performance improvement plan. So you write someone up after you give them a verbal, but you're also giving them a PIP at the same time. I think that's extreme.
Sounds like they're salaried.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Just like, all right. The one thing I want to stress in my response would be, even if the managers verbally addressed it, I think your point is great there, Dr. Green. Like, how did you verbally address it? Like, did you formally tell them this? This is a verbal discussion. I am documenting. This is discipline. Or did you just kind of casually like, hey man, we start at 8 o'clock. Because like if you don't make it formal, I think it's not a big deal. You, at least in my interpretation, right? And I'm like, yeah, cool. And we go about our day. Nothing else gets talked about. Everything gets done, right? I make up my time or whatever, right? Everything is a wash at the end of the day. But you're going to hold that against me, right? You're going to say, well, I gave you a verbal. Like, dude, you literally, I walked in and you're like, yo, banker's hours, 8:30, ha. Like, it's like, dude, you didn't do the right, like, you didn't do it properly. So that's another thing that I hate, when the manager goes, well, I addressed it. I talked to them about it. Like, really? Did you really talk to them? Most of you managers are scared to have a conversation about discipline. You're going to tell me that you addressed it correctly the first time? Like, I call BS. ChatGPT, go take a hike.
I bet you Becky was the manager, and I bet you she had the conversation over beer pong on the weekend when she was hanging out with her employees.
Damn it, Becky.
Can I add one thing? Let's devil's advocate, because I'm not sorry, AI overlords. I love you. Don't when you take over with Skynet, love me. But
Love me.
Well, look, Holly says, of course it was Becky. Of course.
She does Becky.
No, okay, but let's flip the scenario. Not flip the scenario, but think about this. What happens between 8 and 8:30 in the morning usually when you come into the office?
Coffee, bathroom breaks, lockers,
gossip.
Gossip.
The boss would right. The boss would generally initiate a conversation, like, hey, how's your day? How was yesterday? How are the kids? And before you know it, it's 30 minutes. And you've gotten coffee. You're talking about, you're just kind of setting up the day. So how important really was me arriving at 8:20 or to miss the 30 minutes of coffee talk with you? Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, is there a critical need for me to be there? Obviously, if I miss a meeting or I'm late for a meeting, perfect example. But if you're just going to bullshit for 30 minutes at the beginning of the day, like, why are you making this a big deal? Like, how big a deal is it?
I feel like there's some Gen Z in you.
He did. Never mind.
It might be.
I'll leave that alone.
Well, hold on. Hollywood's point. It's all about the appearances.
Yes. I guess. Is this like if you look like you're busy, then you are busy?
That's what I'm saying.
Walk fast, look busy.
Walk fast, look busy. So there's an emergency if we see Mama Mel running down the hall, let alone running, being,
Yeah.
Right.
Just be careful, because if you're
running, run behind you.
if you're in HR walking fast, everyone's going to think someone's getting fired.
Right.
Especially if you have a red folder in your hand. That was the trick.
You and your damn red folders.
But I do agree with the Big Llama, though. It depends on the company, the job, customer facing. All that takes place. So every one of us could be right in the scenario. Because while I am also an advocate and everything Dr. Green said, and making sure the employee is given the right steps, in my head, I'm assuming the manager is 1 out of a million and did their due diligence properly and documented that conversation and sat down and really had that heart-to-heart one-on-one with the employee where they made it very clear, if this keeps happening, I'm going to have to write you up, and I don't want to do that. But we all know that doesn't happen every day.
I agree. Before we get to the next one, I want to make sure that, we talk about investigations. Not everything needs to be investigated. Not every little thing. So when I read this, I want y'all to take this with a grain of salt, but investigations are not needed for every little thing. Okay. So why did ChatGPT say this was their way was by the book? They say it's because HR balances business needs with employee rights by documenting properly, investigating underlying issues, and using progressive discipline. This is not the case for every single organization. They don't all have verbal, written, final fire as their way of doing it.
Some go straight to termination. You were late one day, term.
Mm-hmm. You're like, can't have that. You drank your coffee and it's 8:02 and you should be at your desk. So That's not how the real world works. So I want to make sure I put that out there. That's why investigating does not need to be needed. So, Big Llama, I'm in 30 minutes late. It's okay. We got you.
Again, I feel attacked. AI overlords.
All right, so Mama Mel's going to read this one, or at least she's told me that she's going to read it. So,
all right. Let's see.
All right, so this one is titled "Employee Makes Inappropriate Joke in a Meeting." We've all been there. We all know them. It's been us at some point too. So the scenario is this. During a team meeting, an employee makes a joke that includes a stereotypical comment about a specific ethnicity. Several coworkers look visibly uncomfortable. One employee reports it to HR. Take us through the magic. We can start with Dr. Green.
The magic. Oh, I will agree with you. We've all now this specific joke. No, I tend to stay the hell away from anything that has to do with ethnicity, those type of demographics of anything. I stay away from it because if I can't make the joke about myself, then I'm not really going to tell the joke. So y'all know me. We've been in tons of meetings before, and where we talked about just jokes that we've said to each other, and just like Mama Mel and her family all stealing her internet. So on one podcast, she kept going in and out. Like that's the jokes that we make. That's how we are in HR. Now, of course, we make subtle little stabs, but you know, we're not. I'm not very much too keen on a person asking another person, "Well, what are you?" And the person says, "I'm half Italian." And then the person goes back with, "Well, what are you on the other half?" Like, just still keeps adding fuel to that fire, which you should never, ever, ever do. And so, in my opinion, those are inexcusable, and they should never be tolerated. It should be a zero tolerance policy, because I love Big Llama just as much as I love Mama Mel, just as much as I love Jake.
But you love me more.
You did tell me to love. You did say love me.
Love me, AI.
I'm not going to confirm nor deny said allegations of love.
Maybe I missed the comment. What was the comment they said again?
The person had said that.
Oh, stereotypical.
What's your background? Like, what's your ethnicity? And he said, "I'm Italian, or half Italian." And then the person responded back with, "Well, what's your other half?"
Wait, that was in a scenario?
That was in a scenario, a real scenario.
Oh, okay.
No, that's his example.
No, I was talking about what was the scenario.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
that was the example I was giving. Sorry.
Yeah, no, he just makes stereotypical comments.
A specific one, but it was just refers to it as stereotypical comment about someone's ethnicity. So maybe assuming someone eats something because they're of a color.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're looking for another job. Okay, got you.
Yes, they are.
Well, I mean, if I'm gonna give you my 2 cents on this, I would say, I mean, if you have to look a couple of ways around to say the joke, you shouldn't say it. That's first and foremost. But if you happen to make the comment and you realize what this comment is, and you immediately like pump the brakes, sorry, didn't mean to say that. You know you're wrong. But I don't know. I think if this is a persistent issue, then absolutely we should look into it, right? But if this is the first time that a comment is made and the person admits it, I think, I don't know. You address it immediately. You sort of say, hey, we don't condone that type of behavior. But if there's a pattern, then you have to sort of investigate a little bit further, right? But I hate going into investigations right, after just one allegation. But that's what I would ask the person, like who's reporting it. If I'm the HR, I'd say, is this the first time that they've ever, made these types of this comment before? Is this normal? And if they go, no, it's the first time I've ever heard them say it, but they're from HR, so why are they saying it? Okay, well, and mind you, I am of the belief that you hold your HR people to a higher standard. I am, if I am the HR person and I make the inappropriate joke, it's more than a warning for me. I should know better. And again, that's just me, my thought process on that. But I hold myself to that standard. So if I do make that joke, I would expect not a severe penalty, but I'd expect a little bit more than you would a regular employee. But again, is it an issue that is persistent? Is he always making these jokes? If that's the case, then let's investigate a little bit further, find out why has this been allowed to happen. And if this is a regular occurrence, we got to address it immediately, probably some discipline. But if this is just an off the cuff, oops, I said this wrong, or oops, I didn't mean to offend, first time I said it, it happens. We're all human beings. We will make a mistake and say something stupid. Now, I have also seen it the other way around, where someone goes, "Oh, I didn't know that's racial, or that's an ethnicity joke. They were just repeating something they heard on a TikTok or something." I've kind of seen that, because there's some people who really don't understand all of the intricacies of like what can be offensive, unless it's one of the seven deadly sin words.
What are they?
I will not repeat them. No, don't. Jackass is not one of them, but you are one of them. Trying to make me say, you trying to get me canceled?
Absolutely.
They report us nowadays. They'll call my boss. But no,
What? Llama?
Yeah, no, that's the real boss.
That's the real boss. She'll send you to the Lusty Leopard, or the what's that place called again?
Body Talk.
The Body Talk. She will send you to the Body Talk if you misbehave.
No.
That's a really good question. Should company then provide cultural awareness tools?
I think that would definitely fall into the solution. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
hopefully they already have them, and if they don't,
I mean, if the person says, if they claim they don't know certain things, then yeah, I think that's for sure something that we could do as a solution. But again, I'm looking at it from, it happened, it was uncomfortable, they reported it. Sure, we'll address it, and depending on who it was, right, and who said it, that's kind of where I'm going with it. Holly says one would hope that they would have common sense, but some people don't. It's true.
Not very common anymore.
it is not. It is seldom sense.
Okay.
What would be considered cultural awareness tools? Maybe for those for those of us that are watching that aren't in the HR world, like what would be considered a cultural awareness tool?
You need trainings. Trainings is like one of the big things that I say that people need. And there are some people, and I'm going to tell you, please don't do this. They are scenario actors. They go into a training and the HR person is working out the scenario live and in color. And please don't do that. Please don't act out scenarios live. But give the example in an appropriate way. But I think that training can give a better cultural sensitivity, because we need to all know and remember that everybody has a different background. Everybody came from a different place. There you go. Thank you. Holly said role playing. That's correct. But I think we all need to remember that we're not all the same. We all come from different places, different backgrounds, different types of upbringings. And so in this case, there should be trainings that are actually already created that you can use. Oh, there you go. Equity training around unconscious biases too. So yeah, I agree.
No, I mean, honestly, you should know that anything that describes a person's appearance, sort of talking, their speech patterns, and it's linked to a cultural sort of background, you got to know. But I would say sometimes, so I often say in my videos, in my other channel, like, what in the world of unseasoned, potato salad is that? And I know exactly what I'm referring to. It's someone's doing something that's very, very white. But again, highly inappropriate for anyone to say that in a corporate business setting. But it is. It's an ethnic joke. It's a stereotypical joke based on something for ethnicity. So it's like you got to know these things. You got to know some of these things. But
because not
some people,
all white people have unseasoned potato salad. Some of us know how to use seasons.
Well, some of you put raisins in it too. But
the northern.
But I think honestly, sometimes you'll hear that, like you'll hear people joking and saying something like that, and you don't think it's a big deal, and then you come to find out it's something you probably shouldn't be saying, right? And that's part of that. The training is it's think about what you're saying, how you're saying it, and what I try to tell people is do some self-deprecating jokes. Like I will joke to bring humor about myself. I will bring the comedy to me or the humor to me because I am pointing out something about myself. And it's kind of a safe bet if you were trying to be funny or lighten the mood with humor. That's my trick to it.
Like I wouldn't wear my hat backwards like that, just that's my own self-deprecation right there. I have wonderful hair, so
I have wonderful hair too. I just don't like to see it.
What hair?
If you ain't sneezing, there you go. I like that.
There you go, Llama. Another reason why we don't do politics.
Oh,
no, not doing that. Mm-mm.
So I think one of the things to call out about this scenario, though, is because I agree with everyone's comments. Definitely a part of the actions I would take. But I also think for the HR professionals, you have to look past the investigation. You have to look past what necessarily EEOC accountability looks like. You have to look at the company's standard practice. How have we handled this before? What actions have we taken? Are we going to be consistent in our accountability process? Because there's so much liability, not just from the person that was offended, but also from the person that could potentially end up losing their job. And honestly, depending on how severe it is, depending on the situation, the setting, the company you work for, the position you sit in, and the standards of practice the company follows, I wouldn't be shocked if some of those scenarios end up in first-time terminations.
Damn.
That's wow.
I mean, it really just depends on who it. I mean, every single meticulous factor of every single investigation plays a role in what the accountability looks like. It's so hard to say what the right answer is, and I think that's why HR is so important to be on site and live or available to address these with all the information that's relatively available. Because, I mean, exactly what was said, who is it said about, what's their history, what's the company's practice and standard on this? Because, I mean, imagine if you work for a company that's predominantly one race and the person that said it was that 1% of the person that's not that race. I mean, how does that look, having that person work for the company? And what do you think that's going to do with morale when that short video clip somebody just happened to be recording got loose on FitFam?
So go ahead. If you want to call the fake 1-800 number and you want to become HR, please feel free, because this is all the stuff. This is just a minute stuff that we have to think about, deal with, policies. This is one piece. Just wait till we go down to the rest of these questions. Mel, do you mind reading the steps for me?
Yeah. So according to AI, this is a play-by-play action for HR. HR immediately would launch a discrete investigation speaking to the reporting employee, witnesses, and the person who made the comment. They then determine if the behavior violated some type of anti-harassment or company code of conduct. And then lastly, if confirmed, HR provides either documented corrective action, which could include a written warning, sensitivity training, and or a formal apology, depending on severity and history. And these steps are considered by the book because there's a prompt investigation, there's consistent application of policy, and protection of the affected employees, being critical for legal compliance and culture protection.
That's deep.
Well, here's the only caveat I would throw to AI's master plan here. Sometimes you have to look at the environment in which you're in, and I think Jake, you mentioned that what position you're sitting in, what's the corporate environment look like. I think honestly, not that you let and this is going to sound terrible, but I'm just being honest and real about this, is that think about that corporate environment, and if it is pretty squeaky clean, if you have a pretty clinical type of environment that goes by the book, you hardly hear a joke, right? It's pretty professional. Yes, these steps might make sense depending on if it's like a continuous thing that happens all the time. There are some workplaces that allow some levity and allow some inappropriateness. Let's be real, right? That allow a little bit of inappropriateness, and it depends on what has been allowed up to this point. You can't be selective with this shit. Like, you can't go, oh, well, we don't like Kenny and then we're going to report him. Like, you guys have made the same damn joke 100 times over. Like, this is not the first time we're hearing this. He just happened to say the joke and you didn't like it, right? Or you didn't like the way he said it. Or you condone it because you laugh along and you go, and you've been doing this for months. This is what I'm talking about. It's like sometimes that has to come into play, which our AR overlords don't see that. They want to go into discrete investigations. But that's also something you got. And somebody had asked me that. It's like, if you had this type of behavior and you play along with it all this time, later 6 months down the road, you can't be like, oh, I'm offended now. Like, you've been involved in that behavior for months, and now this is the first time we're hearing about it. Like, there's a little bit of that too. I push back sometimes on that. I don't know. I don't think it's a popular opinion. I would just say that's just me being realistic on how I look at a scenario.
I think someone hurts you. Who hurts you?
No, nobody hurt me. I'm just saying, like, I can't stand when the joke is permissible for months and months and months, and then because the joke is now on you, or because you didn't like something that the way it was said, that now you're going to get offended. Like, you guys have been making this joke for months. Don't make it an issue now.
I don't disagree with you, Big Llama, but I do want to throw in a factor that most people don't get when the investigation prompts a lot of times, which is it's not always about offending the person you're talking to or that you're addressing. If someone overhears it and gets offended, this isn't the 80s, which is most of the time back in the 80s, it was about offending the person you said it to, offending the person that it's about. Yep. You could be saying it to the person. Say it's a homophobic comment you're saying to someone that happens to be gay, but yet, like, I'm not offended. I'm okay with it. We talk like that all the time. But yet a female that has a lot of, gay friends is highly offended by it because it's very homophobic. She didn't appreciate it. It doesn't matter that the person you were saying it to and about is okay with it. It's who you offended in the workplace. Like, and I know we've all dealt with it, where most of the time, a lot of investigations we're looking into, it wasn't even the person that's being accused got reported by the person that they were talking to. It was surrounding factors.
Just want to let you know. Sorry, Big Llama. I have been messaged to let you know that you got a baby face there, Jake from HR. You've got a baby face.
What? And
people are messaging me to tell me that you have a baby face and that you look way too young to be working in the 80s.
Well, I do have Botox, so
you're not supposed to tell the behind the scenes secrets.
Hey, I embrace it. I don't have secrets.
Look, there it is.
Hey, I was alive and kicking in the 80s. That's all that matters.
1989 does still count. Okay.
Here's some modeling in the 80s.
I was modeling for The Gap, okay?
Baby,
or
baby.
Huggies, whichever one it was.
The
Okay, so
only
go
thing
ahead.
I wanted to say, because I know I said a lot about the culture and permitting, letting things happen. One thing I will say is, as a leadership team, if something is brought to your attention, take it serious. Don't dismiss it. Don't just say it is what it is. That's just Mel being Mel. You have to say thank you for reporting that. Take the information and do your due diligence and do your process. Now, again, how severe you go investigating, that's different. But please, as a leader, don't dismiss it. As an HR person, don't dismiss it. Take the information, say thank you for reporting that, and then go through your process and your steps. Nothing will get you in bigger liability than just going along with the joke, or dismissing it, saying, "Oh, it's nothing. It's just so and so." Like, somebody was offended. Take the documentation, move it along. Now, again, do you have to go severe into 5-alarm fire investigation? No, you don't. But again, that's my 2 cents on that. Sorry.
That's okay. I just want to get us to the next, what I think is going to be a favorite one here. Suspected substance use on the job.
Ooh.
I have so many stories, and my favorite one is that's about marijuana, but it's just too funny. So we'll get into that in a minute. But an employee is observed behaving erratically and has slurred speech during their shift. A coworker reports the behavior to a supervisor who contacts HR with concerns of possible inebriation, whether it is medicinal or whether it's alcohol. Let's start with the fun, because Mel's got the fun look. Mel, what do you think?
It doesn't always have to be drug related, right? We get these all the time. They look intoxicated. What does intoxicated look like? What are they doing? Well, they're just a little slower than usual. It's 6:00 in the morning, Susan. Maybe he hasn't had his coffee yet.
Damn it, Becky.
And that's where my mind immediately goes, right? And I think it's because I like to think that people will not show up to work under the influence, but I know way better than to ask that out. But my mind, when somebody brings this to me, I'm always like, okay, pause. What are the symptoms? What are they displaying? What are some of the physical? I can't think of the word, but what are they displaying? Not symptoms. Is symptoms the right word? No.
Characteristics.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In this example, they're just behaving erratically and have, slurred speech. Could it be an impairment? Sure. Could they have maybe just double dosed on Lipo the night before because they were trying to get over the flu? Maybe.
Or they could have been having a stroke. So also know that you need to know face. Just remember, no face.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe they just got Botox and their face is going everywhere.
Wait, just jiggle your eyebrow for us.
Certainly you want to assess the employee, right? I prefer to meet with them in person if I can. Just get a feel for them, right? You want to come from a non-judgmental place because we don't judge. When and maybe you want to ask questions like, I noticed that you're slowing your speech a little bit. What can you tell me about that? Versus, are you drunk? Are you high? Did you take anything? Right? Non-judgmental approach, I think, is my favorite tact. And then, you pretty much follow your company's drug policy, right? Stick to it. Don't deviate from it. But there is a lot that you have to consider before you can just say, they're under the influence. There's a lot of other things that could factor into it. Yeah, see, somebody had vertigo and they had to hold onto the walls. So there you go.
For a week.
Yeah.
Well, I think what could also happen too is think about the number of medications that people are taking, for different reasons. So yes, there could be a medical reason behind it. So it's not necessarily a violation of the drug and alcohol policy, but let's also look at the fact that sometimes you can't afford your medications. And so there's some employees who maybe are without their medication that sort of keeps them functioning, and there's different things. There's different reasons that it can happen. I just think we're very quick to jump on they're drunk or they're high. There's a million and one reasons, and how we handle that employee is important, right? Obviously, if somebody reports something like that, there's usually protocols to do some observation. There's usually ways that you can, monitor the employees, check a couple things without being sort of judgmental and making them feel bad, But honestly, that's a lot of times is what it is someone took too much medication that morning. It's a new medication. They don't have enough medication. That's what I've seen. But yes, then there's the obvious, like alcohol is an obvious one because of the smell. Yeah. Smells are pretty predominant. Marijuana is pretty easy. But again, be careful, right? In a medical marijuana state.
Oh God.
That's a liability. Like you have to tread carefully in those areas. But honestly, just do your due diligence and your observing is what I would say, and make sure, right, that you are addressing this person with respect. They may have a problem, whether it be alcohol related, whether it be drug related, or whether it be medication related. They're having some issue. So let's treat them with respect, and let's go through our processes properly. And, don't make it a scene. Make it, again, let's make it appropriate. As an HR professional, that is your role. Supervisor is going to freak out, and they're going to just remove them off the site, get them out of here. They should go home. Let's, let cooler heads prevail. And I think that is an important part of this whole process for me.
By the way, I don't know who's it said this, but some companies pair drugs and alcohol as one.
Oh, yeah.
Some other organizations say, nope, that's two separate things. No matter what way it comes from, the inebriation of either one can still cause a problem. But I also want us to think on the medical side, kind of like what you were going towards, Big Llama, which is the mental health side. Is something triggering a mental health breakdown? And if that is the case, and you see that, and your employee is having a breakdown, encourage them to use the EAP. The EAP is there for a reason. It's the reason why it's there. And getting all that counseling that you can get, but also sometimes a person just needs to word vomit the whole situation so they can get it all out, so they can get past that breakdown. So as HRs, yes, I know we have to be judge, jury, executioner, therapist, etc. We do it all. And sometimes it's just good to listen, be the listening ear. So anyways, if y'all don't mind, I'm going to move on to what ChatGPT said, which is concerns of possible intoxications or inebriation. The HR action by the book says, step 1, HR and the manager follow the company's drug-free workplace policy. Okay. The step 2, the employee is immediately removed from duty and escorted safely and respectfully to HR. I say in this case, if we're being discreet, you would have the supervisor say, hey, let's go get a drink. And I don't mean like a drink of alcohol. I mean like a drink of water, et cetera. Bad choice of words, but you knew what I meant. Like, hey, let's go grab a bite real quick. And then escort them out. Give them their respect or their dignity, okay? Because we cannot assume like that. You have to know kind of like what you said, Big Llama, which is the rest of the story. Step 3, HR explains the concern and requests that the employee undergo a reasonable suspicion drug test if permitted by state and company policy. Okay, there goes your medical marijuana. And the company policy. Some companies don't even have a policy. As a matter of fact, there was a big one I knew about that I had worked for, and they didn't have one. And it was mind-blowing that they didn't have a drug and alcohol policy to go towards. And then the fourth step is, depending on the results, HR may initiate disciplinary action. And my favorite part right here, which is, or offer assistance through an employee assistance program. So I will tell you that this whole time we've been reading all this, I saw very little emotion. But that's the point of ChatGPT. It's supposed to be by the book. You take the emotion out. The other part about human resources is that we put the emotion in as being a human, because we also need to put ourselves in those shoes and understand that, yes, this was an accident, or yes, they accidentally took 2 pills instead of 1, or whatever it is. Because some people who take pills, they have like 9 or 10 of them in a hand, and they could have accidentally taken 1 extra. We never know. So never jump to conclusions, be a human. So following documented suspicion, protocol protects the company legally and ensures employees' dignity.
I'm surprised it left out 2 very crucial points since it's by the book.
Go for it.
One, it doesn't mention anything about how we transport the employee to be tested. And the other one isn't. And it didn't mention anything about how the employee gets home, whether they refuse the test or not. They're still under reasonable suspicion. And both of them put huge liability onto the company. And I love how ChatGPT did not mention any of those, since it's so by the book.
That's a good point. Because are you going to give them an Uber? Are you going to take them yourself? Like, what's the policy? Because I sure think I ain't taking my car. That's right. He ain't getting in my car. He or she, whoever it is. I don't care. He get in my car.
We got an extra price.
My wife blaming me. Just take the company vehicle. Oh, okay.
You joke, okay. But I have seen that.
Don't do it. Just don't do it.
Just saying, I've seen it.
Always send them in an Uber. I like that. Thank you, Holly. It's definitely a great answer, which is always send them in an Uber. Sometimes even corporations have a corporate account to where you can just bill it to so. But okay, this is one I know that we say out loud a lot, but is there true backing up? Is there any truth to the story? So for our fourth one, we have complaint about managers' favoritism. Okay. We always have heard, and y'all have told me this 1,000 times, and I wanted to throw something at y'all every single time. You're the golden child. You're the golden child. And I'm the golden child because I'm smart, damn it. That's why. I'm good at what I do. But the scenario here.
I was going to say a culturally inappropriate joke, but I stopped myself.
I'm very proud of you.
I mean, I got to say it now. I got to let it out.
He opened the door. He said golden child.
Well, you're the golden child because you found the gold at the end of the rainbow. You little leprechaun. Anyway.
And he's wearing green.
And he's wearing green. That's why. And he's Dr. Green. I mean, it just writes itself, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to go write myself up.
Just remember, you can never catch me Lucky Charms. Anyways, all right.
Scenario. There's crawfish at the end of the rainbow. Anyway, let's go.
Shut your mouth. Scenario. Several employees report that their manager consistently assigns top projects and overtime opportunities to one particular employee who is also a personal friend. Now, I want to jump into this one right here already and tell you that if you are an exempt employee, no thank you. I don't want your overtime work. I don't want that. No. If I'm hourly and I'm being paid handsomely hourly, yeah, come on, give it to me. But what do y'all think about favoritism in this scenario where this person's getting all the projects, the overtime money, and basically getting all the love because they're a personal friend?
Well, we should let Mama Mel answer that since she was the favorite and is the favorite.
That's true. That's true. That's correct.
I wouldn't go that far. It's not my fault that I'm popular.
The funny thing is that was probably their response in the scenario to their employees, to their peers.
Well, look, I think we can all relate to having that one person on your team who you know is reliable, you know they're going to come through, you know they're going to get the job done. And I'm not saying that to your joke, right? But I'm just saying it in general. I want to surround myself with people that are working smarter, not necessarily harder. And I don't think, again, I'm not coming from an HR perspective, but I don't think there's anything wrong with having people on your team that are reliable. Now, if it's just blatantly out there and there is no regard for other people, you're not giving other people the chance, then yes, absolutely, we open the investigation. We talk to people on your team. We try to figure out if there is some type of favoritism. But you're always going to have that one employee that's dependable and reliable, and you can give them something, they're going to get it done. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily favor them. You just kind of know they're going to get it done. And as a manager, as a leader, as a director, as a whoever is in charge of subordinates, I see it happen way too often, but I don't see any malice behind it.
I'm going to be the devil's advocate for you.
Of course he is. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I mean, I agree about 10%.
Dang.
Well,
Shit.
so no, the reason why, let me tell you why. Okay. First of all,
Some popcorn.
You're assigning all this extra work and glory to one person on your team, even if they're the best person on your team. And let's say it's not favoritism because they are the best person for that job. Okay, I get that. But then you're a poor manager because your evaluations with this employee, your one-on-one conversations with them should be giving them all this feedback that they already know they suck at their job, and that's why they're not getting these projects. So is the manager doing their job is my question, because it is either favoritism or some manager sucks at their job. Because first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at, are they being fair and consistent? Was it because this person was more qualified or has a skill set or a certification no one else has? Then you're going to look at everyone else's performance evaluation, because if Linda's the one complaining, we're going to look, first thing I'm going to do is look at Linda's last 3 performance evaluations to see if she's been given any feedback that she's not good at her job, so that when we get to the end of the road, we don't just go back to Linda and go, oh, no, we investigated it. There's no favoritism. It's like, no, Linda, we did our due diligence. I can't discuss with you the left side of the fence, but on the right side of the fence, I've read all your evaluations, and there's been clear opportunity of negligence on your part, which obviously tells me why you weren't selected for this project. You want to give them as much information that makes plausible sense that we're allowed to share with them at the end of that investigation that's appropriate. But if it's not favoritism, I'm questioning, is that manager doing their job? Because that person that filed that complaint should know already why they weren't selected for that project.
Whoa.
That's a very good devil's advocate, as you would say. If it's not favoritism, I don't want it. So, of course not. No, we want to be fair across the board, and that's the whole point. Is being fair across the board so that everyone has an equal chance to. I think one organization used to tell me to give everybody else a chance to shine. I think is what it was. So
No.
sometimes
No.
do we need to step back, or do we need to keep shining on our own? And if that person, like you say, sucks at their job, then number one, like you said, they should know it. They should know. And it should reflect in their pay, that good old lucky 11-cent raise just show.
Motherfucker. This fucking guy. All right, let me say something.
You are
You
my
have been-
new employee.
Okay. A couple of things that I heard, not triggered, and I'm not feeling attacked. I'm just saying. One thing I will say is, depending on the role that I'm in, I will continue to shine. I'm competitive in that way. So if I'm in depending on the environment, it makes us this way. But I want to be top dog. I want to be number one on any list. I want to be the highest performer. So if there's an opportunity, I'm going to take it, right? And I will continue to move forward. But as a leader, when I'm picking someone, I think I'm going to go to Mama Mel's point sometimes is like, if the shit's got to get done, Becky ain't getting the assignment. Like honestly. Now, also to Jake's point, if I'm a good leader, then the rest of the team knows why I picked Becky for the assignment, or why I didn't pick Becky. And Becky should know where she stands with me. But honestly, sometimes you have to do that. Everyone knows, and you can think right now, if you're listening and if you guys here, you know who your go-to is. Mm-hmm. You know exactly who that person is, that you know if the shit's got to get done and you got a time hack, it's a big project. There's no question I'm going right to that person. And so that is kind of where my head's at sometimes, is like, I can't trust you, then I am not going to go to you if I'm the leader. And yes, it will seem like favoritism. I think the one part not that we're missing on it, but there's a perception that this person is a personal friend. I start to trust you more, so I will open up to you more, right? As a leader, and that's a problem. That's problematic. You try to be, consistent, but when you find people who have that are like-minded in terms of work ethic and the way that you do things, unfortunately, it does foster a little bit more of conversation. If you take it to an outside level where you're having drinks on Friday nights and you guys are seeing each other's family, that's a problem. That's a problem, So again, I think a leader has to be careful how they measure and how they act there. But again, if I'm the leader, I go with the person who's going to deliver. Now, again, if it's not a critical element, I need to give other people opportunities. But Becky will know that she sucks, and she is, as Life of God has said, Becky equals shiny shit. Absolutely.
Yeah.
A posh turd is still a turd.
But I agree with Holly as well. A lot of times, the majority of the time, that ends up happening because managers were not trained on how to deal with these situations. They barely know how to manage people themselves, let alone these complex situations where, it's not always favoritism. They're just going with who they have available to get the job done, because we all know we have that unlimited budget to train people, right?
That's true.
Very true.
I need more money. HR needs more money.
Mm.
So I will agree with you guys on this, and then I want us to move because we only have 2 left. But with this, I agree with you, Big Llama, just for the pure fact of I can't help it if I'm reliable, dependable. I get the shit done. That's the whole point. Is it my boss can come to me and say, "Hey, Chad, can you do this, 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 and this?" Damn right I can. If I don't know, I'll figure it out and I'll find the person who can help me. Like you got to be resourceful. Hence of the words, human resources. Use your resources. Make it happen.
Right. And get the selfies done when they ask you to get them done.
Mm-hmm. So.
Never gonna live at one time.
Wait, what? What happened?
I said, get the selfies done when they tell you to take the selfies.
and that's why some people get an 11-cent raise and why some don't.
How'd that work out for you, my friend?
Well, exactly. It worked out exactly as I backfired.
I was told I need to watch my language, aka my mother.
Oh shit, mama!
Now she's gonna say, "Tell Big Llama to watch his language."
I'm so sorry. I should not have
drink
gone
water. Anyways, no, you're cool. You're cool. She's cool. Okay, so we kind of touched on this one, and the reason why I like this one so much is because this can bring us all together on this one, which is employee discloses mental health struggles. An employee tells HR they've been struggling with anxiety and depression, which is affecting their performance. They ask for flexibility and time off. And I swear I know what Jake's going to say. So, because we've dealt with this situation before. But what are your thoughts? Like, what do you do?
Are we going to Jake first, or is that or
Jake looks excited, like he's ready to pop.
What? Does not everyone get one of these like once a week? I don't get it now in my current job, but one of my other jobs where I dealt with the average age bracket was between 18 and 22. I got one of these every week. And they love to come tell you all about their mental health problems and all their physical disabilities and everything that's covered under HIPAA that you don't want to know. Yeah. And so, of course, my underlying paranoia, and then this is where Dr. Green said he knows I'm going to say, my first response is going to be thanking that employee for voluntarily sharing that information with me, as I wasn't asking for it, but thank you. And then we're going to start researching our policies, looking for the appropriate resources, whether or not they want to take a day or two off and they want to use their PTO, or we want to look at an ADA accommodation, or we want to look at a protected leave, depending on what they're sharing is what bucket we want to throw them toward and bury them in. I mean, help them in.
Just throw them to the chum bucket. I don't know if y'all get that reference, but SpongeBob SquarePants.
I do. They're plankton.
Thank you. So in this case, that's a great response. One, because we don't want them to feel like they're uncomfortable coming and telling us what's going on, because they could be one scenario, one problem away from having a breakdown, and boom, we're in a bad place. And so go ahead.
I was going to say, can I just say, first and foremost, it's a pretty serious topic. And so I don't like to make light of it. And I'm going to struggle not making light of it, because I usually make light of everything. But I think when somebody does present themselves with this information, right, it's just treat them with respect and open yourself up to just listen for a little bit and let them unload. Sometimes that's all they need, is just somebody to talk about it. So I think try to work. Listen, a good HR person will work within the confines of the rules that you have, your policies, your benefits. So if there's something that we can use in our benefits system, we have leave of absence, if we have FMLA, if we have all these different things, right? There's different processes for them, but if you can help them navigate through those waters and get them the time that they need, or figure it out. And then I'm not saying, again, we're not doing something that's outside of the company policy, but help them understand what they have available to them that they can use to get the help that they need. I think that's our job. One is to listen. We're not all PhDs like Dr. Green. But at the same time, just listen to what they have to say. Sometimes they just want to get off their chest. That's the best thing you can do sometimes as an HR professional. And then use the tools within your company's toolbox and your policies and your procedures to try to help them get to that end goal, without impacting their job. I will, like record scratch right now, boom, stop it. If you bring up mental health issues, anxiety, and depression, when you're being disciplined for work, you can take that shit and exit the building with that. That's what I don't like, is when you get into a pickle, or you get into a position where you are now being reprimanded for not doing your job, or, and then you bring up these things. That is not genuine to me. And I think that's where I have a hard time continuing to keep that professional look, is like, now you're going to bring this up because you've missed work 10 times and you have not been, providing your work on meeting deadlines and doing like you should have worked throughout this whole thing. But now it's an extreme case. You want to use this, protected thing. It literally pisses me off so much, but I still have to be professional and work through it. I don't think I feel it's not genuine at that point.
Well, and just for clarification, I'm sure you can agree with me, Big Llama. We all know there's that one special circumstance. But the other 9 out of 10 times,
Yeah,
I'm gonna call BS, because it's something they would have brought up in many of the previous conversations leading up to that accountability or termination.
right.
History tends to repeat itself. And when I say that is if you see a weird sign in an area, like no surfing during a storm, there must have been something that happened that caused to put the sign up.
Right.
So the signs are there for us. We just have to make sure that we're reading the right signs in this case. And you can play devil's advocate. You can do all sorts of things. You can be professional. But like I said, history repeats itself. And so you can see that, okay, yep, checking off the box for this, and this. This is crap. So I'll document it and we'll move on. But usually it's like you said, Big Llama, which is when discipline happens, that's when all this stuff just starts popping up, and which is not the point of it. It takes it away from the real true things, which is the people who are struggling and they're doing it. Maybe they're even getting a verbal and they're just saying, hey, look, I'm struggling. I've got this going on. They're not even about to get fired. They're just getting a verbal. They want to make sure that they're still being a good employee, even though that they're struggling. That I agree with. Outside of that, no. Yeah. So, I do have to rush to this part. So sorry, guys. HR said HR action plan was step 1. HR meets with the complaining employee to clarify that personal beliefs do not. Oh, see, sorry, I read the wrong one, y'all.
No, well, let's do it, because we are pressed for time. We want to get to the last scenario because it's a pretty good scenario, and then we will wrap this up. So I think we hit it on the head, like use appropriate methods.
Okay, so last one: employee refuses to work with a transgender coworker, and I've never been in this situation. Actually,
I have.
Very little, but it resolved itself. So, after a new employee transitions, a coworker tells their manager, "I'm not comfortable working with them. It goes against my beliefs." Hate has no home here.
I mean,
I feel like the answer is that their personal beliefs don't matter in this situation. I just have a feeling that's the solution that was going to be read.
I will say I dealt with this issue, and not that the early 2000s, like 2001, is the ancient history, but it was 20 something years ago, and we did have a transgender employee who one day was Jose, the next day was Susan, and there was just a lot of scuttlebutt about it, like which bathroom will he use and all this. Like, there was a lot of unknowns, at least from our workplace at the time. And a lot of this got thrown around. Like, I don't believe in that. It's against my thing. It's against my religion, which, again, I never want to tell anyone what they think is right or wrong. I'm not going to do that. I may not agree with it, right? I may not agree with your thinking, but at the same time, it's not my place to tell you what's right or wrong. It's my place to kind of work with you through the rules of the company. So I think Jake's point is it probably doesn't matter what your beliefs are. It just matters that, are we following the proper protocols? I think we recently had that. I think there was a federal change to the bathroom laws, right? And people were up in arms about which bathroom do I use and what it's like, we're going to follow the guidelines. And if you don't like those guidelines, then, like, unfortunately, you have options. But it doesn't mean we're going to change policy, right? It doesn't mean that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I love the scenario for that, because it's something that it's going to continue to happen, whether it's transgender, whether it's whatever it is. There are people who are just doing different things in their lives, and whatever that is, it could, you can substitute transgender for wearing religious headpieces or dressing a certain way or having their hair a certain way, or you can replace that with anything. I'm not trying to minimize the transgender issue. I'm just saying this is going to be a prevalent issue as an HR professional for a long time. And as long as you can follow your policy and your guidelines. Now, I'll also tell you this, HR person, if you don't believe in those guidelines, find a new place to work. Find a different place to be, because your job is not to, change people's mindsets of how you feel and how they should, like, get that shit out of your brain right now. Like, you are wrong in trying to indoctrinate people in your way of thinking. So you don't like how they do it, then go find an organization that has beliefs and values that you follow, because you're not going to change that, and you shouldn't be the change agent on that. So that I'll be very, like, I will put my foot down on that for sure. If you're an HR person and you don't like the way things are written, either you can enact change for the right reasons, or you can leave.
Is this person a person? Are they a human?
Right.
Last time I checked, all humans deserve respect. You don't have to like what they do in order to treat them with respect. They are still employees. We are still there to work on behalf of those employees as well as the organization. So doing right. So discrimination is no way, shape, or form to be given in this case. And so that rolls into our step one. HR meets with the complaining employee to clarify that personal beliefs do not justify discrimination or refusal to work with someone. It'd be like me going to Mama Mel saying, I don't want to work with you because you're a girl. Still discrimination, and it's a lack of respect. So step two says HR reiterates the company's non-discrimination and inclusion policy. If you have one, if you don't have one, please go write one. It's not hard. Go write it. And then document the conversation that you had with that employee. Step three is if behavior persists, the employee may face disciplinary action for creating a hostile work environment. Don't want those. We don't need those. They should not have a place. As I said, like a little bit ago, hate has no home here. So don't bring it home and don't bring it to work.
And listen, don't get caught either, HR person, with agreeing with the person's belief. Like, for example, again, this is not a true statement. I'm just saying as an example. All right, let's just say I'm an HR professional, and someone says, hey, I don't want to work with a transgender person. I take the information, and behind closed doors, I go, I don't either. Right? Don't do that. Don't even if it aligns with your values or the way you look at things, don't do that, because now you're an ally to that person, and they're going to start using you as their mouthpiece or their voice, and you're gonna get the company in trouble. Because unfortunately you're HR and you now represent the company. So even if you agree with whatever this person says, you cannot admit it. And again, we're talking religious issues, we're talking about politics, we're talking about all of these things that play into this, fear of transgender employees. All of that stuff is there, and so be careful. And again, whatever your view is your view. No one is going to change that, and that's fine. And I'm not going to say if you're right or wrong. I'm just saying if you side with someone like that, you're now putting us in a liability as a company. So be careful with that for sure.
It's important to also note that, as the world is progressing, and I say this because this is how it was explained to me a couple years back when I had my first case of a transgender person wanting to use a restroom of their choice. As a company, the world is evolving, it's progressing. As a company, we are moving forward in a direction which is inclusive to all of our employees, which is free of discrimination, which is free of harassment, which is also free of judgment. So I love that you said, like, although it doesn't align to your personal beliefs, that doesn't mean that you ally yourself or align yourself with a specific side of the debate or whatnot, or the issue. As HR professionals, we have to remain a professional, right? And we move forward in a very neutral way that doesn't sway one way or the other. And you have to do that at all levels of conversations that you're having, because although it could be a a subordinate that comes to you and brings this issue up, but it could also be a colleague, right? And trust no one ever in your workplace. So you remain neutral every step of the way, even if it doesn't align to your personal beliefs. It doesn't matter. When we walk in those doors, my personal beliefs are done. I'm a professional and I'm there to do my job. And my, reasoning back to the employee is, this is the direction that we're moving in, right? We're not going back in time. This is where the world is shifting to. And as a company, we have to, it's in our best interest to make our workplace environment somewhere where our employees all feel included. They all feel equally, valued and heard. We certainly can't pick and choose our sides.
Yeah. I want to make sure that, especially all the HR professionals, know that don't let unconscious bias in yourself dictate how that investigation outcome goes. Because a lot of times when someone of a protected class, especially on certain topics that are very big in the world right now, like transgender, gets brought up, we tend to want to be their advocate. They're right. They're the victims. Because I had a situation where a trans woman filed a complaint because they kept getting misgendered. And when you looked at them, I'm gay myself. When you looked at them, you honestly couldn't tell which gender they were trying to fight for. And she would file complaint after complaint after complaint on one after another. It wasn't the same person being misgendered. And I honestly had to sit down and have a little bit of a come to Jesus meeting with that person to let her know, like, look, I can't force you to make a public announcement. I can't force you to self-identify. But you can't get offended when someone misgenders you by mistake and then you correct them and then they start doing it the right way. Because then at this point, you're harassing the employees. You correct them. If they're respectful going forward, that's the end of that conversation. Unless they keep doing it over and over. So at this point, I had to let them know, honestly, at this point, they were borderlining harassment of the employees. So just pay attention to all the facts, because you really and truly don't know whether or not someone just happens to be overly sensitive or if the facts of the case truly are as they seem.
It's a great point.
Yes, absolutely. So as we draw this down to a close, I am going to pull a big llama and say, let's give everybody one chance to kind of give us some parting advice on these scenarios that we've dealt with, and what it can be what's near and dear to your heart, or what you feel is needs to be done, and how we can further the cause of HR. So we'll start with the big llama.
So I think this was a great exercise in showing the nuances of this job. Like, you can see that there is a prescribed way, right? Your textbooks will tell you it's one way, ChatGPT, Google, whatever. But you always have to think about the other variables. So every scenario, we could have spent an hour and a half talking about just that scenario and breaking down the right, the wrong, and everything else. And that is what people misunderstand about HR. We're not just following a rule and making it, happen. We have to think about employee, company, policy, actions taken, documents, documentation. All of this is part of your world. And so if you've learned anything tonight from the podcast, it's that not every scenario is a textbook scenario. This is why sometimes people ask me, like, hey, how come you don't have certain certificates, or how come you don't have this particular degree? I've seen people with and not talking about you, Dr. Green, but just saying, I've seen people with PhDs with high level degrees who can hardly function, in that role. They know a lot, and they did a lot of book learning, right? Mm-hmm. but the practical application of it is very difficult. If you don't have an open mind, you don't understand nuance, you don't understand how things work, you're not going to be successful in this role. So that's one thing I love about this exercise that we just did, is that it shows the value of HR and the value of a good person, a good thinker in that position. So take that away, and hopefully you guys have learned something with tonight's episode.
Thank you, Big Llama. We appreciate that. Jake from HR.
I mean, how do you follow that?
Round of applause.
I know. I mean, I agree with what the Big Llama said. I mean, approach every situation as if it's its own independent variable. No, there's no solution to anything we face on a daily basis, only a general consensus of a foundation for us to work off of. And when you're facing the challenges that we discussed today, or even the ones we didn't discuss today, just keep an open mind and just understand that everybody is biased. Even HR, we all have our personal opinions. The question is how much do we let it affect our judgment, our thinking, the outcome of what we do? So in HR, you have to have that much more self-control in your thoughts and your opinions. And you have to basically be able to control your heart at times and be able to turn it off to be able to do your job effectively. And that is hard. So I will leave that there and pass it over to Mama Mel for some of that baby mama wisdom.
Approach every situation impartially, right? Free of judgment. Know that a one-size-fits-all solution does not work. Not in HR ever. Be respectful, be mindful when having these conversations. Thank your employees for voluntarily sharing their information. And be empathetic, right? It takes a lot sometimes for some people to come to you have your abusers that just come to HR for everything and use and abuses. But then you have those employees that it took a lot for them to come forward. Be empathetic to them. And as I probably say every episode, just be a good human being. Just overall be a decent human being, especially if you work in HR.
Thank you. Very well said. I think I will, what's that word we use? Piggyback off of that. And I will say that it's very important to make sure that every employee feels seen, heard. Their voice has to be heard. They have to feel value, and they have to feel safe. If they don't have those things, then yes, you can drive anyone to a mental health breakdown. Just by not being, like you said, a human being. But everyone deserves a space to be able to be heard. Everything, their stories, we're supposed to also honor them. But then nobody has to shrink to fit in. That should never be the case. So I give the parting wisdom is, like Mama Mel said, be empathetic. Be a human being. If you can't be, get the hell out of my profession. So that's my advice.
Take us home, Jake.
All right. As you all know, our podcast has come to an end. We greatly appreciate all your beautiful attendances today. So we will all share with you with much love until we call you into the office next time.
Love it. Well, that's another episode of the Four Friends Trying to Figure Out HR. We didn't solve anything, but hey, at least we tried.
And by tried, we mean we laughed, we overshared, and we probably violated some HR guidelines ourselves.
But remember, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Don't take our advice. Seriously, don't.
And if your HR manager asks, you've never heard of us or this podcast.
Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and join us the next time as we keep trying to figure out HR and fail spectacularly.
Now, go be productive, or at least pretend to be.
And tell your boss that I said hi.
Tell your mom I said hello.
Tell your daddy I said hey.
And remember, hate has no home here.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week again for a fresh round.